This is lesson 1.7, the distributive property. The objective of this lesson is that you can apply the distributive property to simplify an expression. So first we need to go over what the definition of the distributive property is. The distributive property means that a number next to parentheses, I'm not going to write out the word, I'm just going to draw parentheses, can be multiplied through the values within the parentheses. So below here I have what's called a mathematical definition. They've used letters to represent any numbers or terms that you could possibly have. And I'm going to show my multiplication by drawing a little arrow or an arch to show that I'm going to first multiply whatever term I have directly on the outside of parentheses to the first term I see within the parentheses. So here I have A times B, so I'm going to write AB. Had these be terms or numbers, I would have to multiply their coefficients together. Then I need to go back with the A and multiply it to the next term in the expression. Because it's not going to be, our answer is, we are basically building the second term of the expression, we need to have a sign. So you're always going to ask yourself the multiplication sign rules. Okay, I have a positive A and a positive C. A positive times a positive always equals a positive. And then multiply your numbers or your variables together. A times C is just AC. The simplest form of expression has no before I get to that, sorry. I just wanted to mention here the distributive property. I like to nickname and call it the double rainbow because when you're solving these, you will often draw like two little arches. It makes like a little rainbow. So I call it the distributive property or double rainbow to remember what I'm doing here. The simplest form of expression has no parentheses and no like terms. So when you're asked to put an expression in simplest form, you need to get rid of both of those. You're going to get rid of them by using the distributive property and then simplifying your expression, and that's where you have to combine your variable terms and combine your constants together like what we did in the previous lesson. So here's a couple of examples. Let's practice this together. Here you have 2 times the quantity x minus 4. The 2 is directly outside of your parenthesis, and you're going to multiply it to the first term in the parenthesis. So 2 times x is just simply 2x. Then you go back to the 2 again, and we're going to multiply it to the next term in the expression. Now be careful on this. The next term of the expression, you need to make sure you figure out your signs first. You have a positive 2 times a negative 4. A positive times a negative equals a negative. Then you multiply the numbers together. 2 times 4 equals 8. Do not ever write like this, 2x plus negative 8. You should never have two signs in between your terms. Okay. So notice that what we're doing, we're multiplying the number on the outside to each of the terms on the inside. Well, why are we doing it like this? Didn't we learn in one of our other lessons that, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, we had to do whatever's inside parentheses? We only did that with numeric expressions, all numbers. Because now we have variables in our expression, we can't use that order of operations. So we have to use the distributive property. Let's look at our second example. This is a very commonly missed problem. It's read negative times the quantity x minus 4. Now what is that negative out there? There should be a number there with that negative sign. What is it? It's a negative 1. So there's that invisible 1 again that we always have in algebra. What you're multiplying is negative 1 times x. Well, negative times a positive equals a negative, and 1 times anything is just itself, so negative x. You could have written negative 1x, and that would be fine too, but let's go ahead and leave those coefficients of 1 off. Then you need to multiply that negative, or that negative 1, times the negative 4. Again, first figure out your signs when you get to your next term. We have a negative times a negative equals a positive, and 1 times 4 equals 4. Alright, let's practice some more of these. Alright, we have the example of negative 6 times the quantity 7a plus 1. So the first thing you would do is multiply that negative 6 to the first term inside of the parentheses. The first term is the 7a. So we have a negative times a positive equals a negative, and 6 times 7 is 42a. Alright, so you have to use those sign rules. Then you're going to multiply the negative 6 times the positive 1. So again, you ask your sign rules. A negative times a positive equals a negative. And then multiply 6 times 1 is 6. So our third step says to combine all like terms if necessary. Do we have any like terms that we need to combine? We have a negative 42a and a negative 6. Those are not like terms, so we don't have to combine them. But I also want to caution you this. I should probably have had a step 4 that just asked yourself, is your expression in standard form? Again, what do we mean by that? Do we have our variable term before our constant? In this case, yes, we do. Alright, look at focus question number 2. Simplify the expression negative 9 plus 4 times the quantity 1 minus 10x. Now there's something important that you need to know about the distributive property. A common mistake is people will try to distribute a term that's not directly beside the parentheses. It must be directly beside it, nothing in between. For example, this negative 9 is not sitting right next to those parentheses. You're not going to distribute the negative 9. Let's just write it down and then look at the 4. The 4 is directly next to the parentheses, so we have to distribute the 4 to get rid of those parentheses. So you would first take the 4 times the 1. Now we already have a term in our answer, the negative 9. So when we write down the answer to this multiplication, we must write the sign down because it's no longer the leading term. So we have a positive 4 times a positive 1. Well, a positive times a positive is a positive, and 4 times 1 is 4. Then you'll take that same number and multiply it to the next term in the expression. 4 times negative 10, x is equal to, well, a positive times a negative, because that is a negative 10x, is a negative. 4 times 10 is 40, and then you just tack on the x, 40x. We're not done simplifying the expression yet. Yes, we got rid of the parenthesis, but remember simplifying means two things. Get rid of parentheses and get rid of like terms. So to combine your like terms, remember we always start with our variable term. Go ahead and circle your variable term now. Did you circle the negative 40x? There's no other term to combine it with, so we're just going to copy it down, negative 40x. Now, put it squares around your constants. You have a negative 9 and a positive 4. Regardless if your answer after you combine this is positive or negative, we must write the sign down because it's not going to be the first term of the expression. Remember, when you're combining, you're actually using your SOB rule, not your multiplication rules. So if these are the same signs, you have to add. If they're opposite signs, you have to subtract. Well, we have to subtract, and we know that our bigger sign wins. 9's bigger, so we make it a negative 9 minus 4 is 5. And that's your final answer. When you're simplifying an expression, you may not get just a single term for an answer. That's why the directions say to simplify and not to evaluate. They don't expect that the answer will be a numeric value. It's more likely that it will have variables in your answer. Alright, one last example before I let you loose on your guided practice. Here's another example of we have a term that's not directly beside our parenthesis, that m, so we're just going to copy it down. Then I see a 3 that's directly beside the parentheses. That's a positive 3 times a negative 1. Well, positive times a negative is always a negative. 3 times 1 is 3. Then I multiply the positive 3 to the, what am I multiplying it to? Hopefully you said negative 7m. Watch those signs. Make sure you include the signs with them. So a positive times a negative equals a negative. 3 times 7 is 21. And then don't forget your variable m. So we've done our multiplication. Now we're ready to combine our like terms. Again, we start with our variable terms. Go ahead and circle your variable terms now. I think you circled the negative 21m and the m. Those are like terms. They both have the variable m. Now there's that m that's in front there. You don't see its coefficient. What is it? Remember, if you don't see it, it's 1. It's supposed to be 1. Alright, so we need to combine those two terms together. We use our rule of SOB. Those are opposite signs, so you have to subtract. 21 minus 1 is just 20, but the bigger sign wins. Well, the negative is bigger, so it's a negative 20. And then don't forget your variable, m. Then combine your constants. We only have one constant, so there's nothing else to combine with, that negative 3, so we just copy it down, negative 3. Our answer is in standard form, and we don't have any coefficients of 1 that we have to leave off, so we're good. That's how you would see your answer. Alright, good luck on the guided practice. Again, if you need more instruction or getting stuck somewhere, please see your instructor.